This is Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. I'm excited to have back again Andy Daster, who's president of North American Insurance Services. Andy, we had a great conversation last time. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're technically, from a benefits perspective, you probably provide more insight than I think anyone that I've known regarding how businesses are structured relative to their benefits. But before we talk about kind of the business side of benefits, you mentioned that you grew from 2 brokers to 4,000. Over how long was that?
It's taken me a decade to go from 2 to
that's still huge.
4,000. Yeah, and that's the way my business is. It is year in and year out. You are constantly sharing your message with your audience on the things that you're doing and how you're trying to grow and how you're trying to help the independent broker, how you're trying to help the consumer and the employer. Yes, it's a...
Now, how do you keep that many people motivated? You've got these 4,000 brokers as a part of your operation. How do you keep 4,000 brokers motivated? That's a huge number of people versus the 2.
It is, and unfortunately, there's no one-size-fit-all, right? It'd be easy just to say, oh, well, I just do this, and that motivates everybody.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So there are a variety of different ways that I not only motivate, but try to engage with that many people. One of the things that has been a true blessing to our business has been social media.
Oh, interesting.
So as an example, when I'm done with this podcast, we'll take a photo and I will post it on our social media, and all 4,000 agents will know exactly what I did today.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So how else can you deliver a message that fast and to that many people?
Sure. Now, I'm surprised by that, Andy, because you're in a business that's been around for a long time, an industry, but you're using social media. Do you have a particular platform that works best for you?
All of them, but
Okay.
I'll be a little more specific here in a moment. So I got a confession to make. I did not understand social media when I started this business, and so I sadly asked my kids to help me.
I do the same thing. Don't be.
They laughed at me like, "What are you talking about? Any idiot can do this," and they were just like, I'm not going to help you. So I'm ashamed to say I hired a consultant to help me get my social media.
So you hired somebody else's kid, right?
Exactly. That's what it was. It's exactly right. Somebody else's kid. And I had to pay them because my own kids were like, come on, Boomer can't do this on social media.
Right.
But I will say I was committed to really learning and understanding. And I knew that this was going to be a big, I didn't know it was going to be maybe this big,
Sure.
but I knew it was going to be big. And I really had no idea how I was going to use it.
Interesting.
I didn't know what was going to be of benefit until I just started doing stuff.
Right.
So here's a couple of ways that we've used social media to engage and motivate those agents. So first of all, we are heavy users of Facebook, and we use Facebook in both an open and a closed environment. So we have a closed group, and then we have open public Facebook content. We do that on purpose because inside of a closed group, there's just so much more you can talk about without the prying eyes of consumers or regulators or insurance companies. It just allows us to have open discussions, especially if you don't know everything.
Right.
LinkedIn is a great tool, but we use it primarily to extend our brand.
Okay.
We're not really looking to try to do anything. We just want people to know who we are and what we're about.
Right.
I want them to know that Ronnie and I had a discussion today about entrepreneurship and building a business and what it takes to be successful.
Right.
Because that's what I'm about, and I want my agents to see that I'm
An engagement.
Yeah, exactly. So LinkedIn is used often more just to share our brand and our culture and what we're about.
Makes sense.
YouTube is really training.
Okay.
Right? I mean, anybody
Training the brokers on how to do certain things. Okay, that's
absolutely,
fantastic.
because America has gotten to the point now where if you want to learn how to do something, You go watch a YouTube video, right?
My father does as well. He fixed the whole car just by looking at YouTube video.
Exactly.
It's impressive.
And the span of things that you can learn on a YouTube video is it's unlimited almost.
Right.
You couldn't live long enough to view everything in there. So we use YouTube.
In fact, when I was looking for a car for my daughter, we went on YouTube and looked at quite a few videos just to see how people spoke about it. So you're right. It's a great platform for learning and sharing information.
I like your car, by the way. That aside, but you're right. So YouTube is absolutely instrumental in terms of educating, right. and it's something where we create libraries of content. So you could go down that rabbit hole just learning the things that we do, all by going onto YouTube. So those are just some examples. We can go on all day, but
Sure.
Those are 3 separate, distinct platforms, and all of them have a very specific strategy. We're not, and that's different maybe from some businesses where they'll create one piece of content and then they'll spread them
Sure.
to all the different platforms. Right. What we have found is that not only is the audience different, but why people go there tends to be different.
It's very true.
So rather than say, well, let's create this marketing content and spread it because there's all these softwares, right? Where you can just schedule
Push
it and
it
it can
out.
go out on 50 different platforms. And I get why people do that, but we don't. We really try to look at each platform and have a strategy for each specific platform. We even have a budget for each specific platform.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we slice it that finely.
Did you decide, are you managing that, or did you hire someone internally, or are you still outsourcing?
So, no, we do it all in-house. And
Oh, my.
The interesting thing is, remember how I told you that I had to hire a consultant to teach me how to do it? But one of the things I decided to do as a small business owner is that I decided that because we were so small, I had to be able to do everything.
Right.
So rather than hiring somebody and say, okay, go figure out LinkedIn and let me know how it goes.
Right.
Podcasts are so popular, even monkeys are doing it.
75% of Americans listen to podcasts monthly. That's 210 million people in the United States alone. And yes, podcasts are profitable. Joe Rogan is making $30 million per year. Your content, your knowledge is worth sharing. Don't just dream it, do it. Visit andycostafilms.com/podcast and turn your content into leaks.
Instead, I would go figure it out.
Oh, wow.
I would manage it. I would run it. And then I would hire somebody and say,
Interesting.
okay, I got the ground floor of this thing up and running.
Right.
Now I need you to think about it every day and take it to the next
So
level.
you know it's interesting. Don't lose where you are in that thought process. But this is what I've been telling my daughter as well. And I talk about it all the time on the podcast, so I apologize for anyone listening. But what you did is really fascinating. And I also say this to business leaders. The really neat thing about what you just described is that you've gone and learned it. And then when you bring someone in, you know enough to be able to coach them on what you want versus them just selling you something, you not knowing how to analyze it and then just telling them to go do it. So you might spend a ton of money listening to their opinions versus you having at least a baseline understanding of it. So what you did sounds incredible.
And, if you think about it, if you're Coca-Cola, well, you don't merge a TV strategy with a podcast strategy with a radio strategy, right? You got to look at each one of them separately, and you probably have a budget for each one of them separately. And a strategy, while it has some consistency to it, they're still all different because TV and radio are different.
Right.
But personally, I think small business looks at social media as one big bucket and that all of the different platforms are the same. And I just don't believe that. I think their audiences are different. I think why they go there for different reasons. So I give them what they want. They want to go to YouTube to learn.
Right.
So yeah,
That's cool.
I send them there to learn. Do we build sort of culture and teamwork there? Not really, because people want to go to YouTube to learn. So I'm giving them what they want. They want to go there to learn. They want to be able to self-study.
Now, let me ask you this, since you're taking us down kind of a technology approach. In the medical and healthcare industry, technology has become so important. There are very few places that I go in from a business standpoint and have a paper enrollment process for me. I will not do it. It's the first thing that I fix at a company. you're using a lot of technology in a highly regulated arena. You have to make sure that data is secure. I won't ask you for the details on how you're managing that, but you're using a lot of technology, I presume.
So I got a little story to tell you.
Okay.
So my industry is the world's worst when it comes to paper, and frankly, they're still 5 years behind, and in some cases 10 years behind in the development of technology.
Right.
So Amazon, if you're listening, Apple, if you're listening, I'm telling you, man, call me.
There's an opportunity, right?
There's an opportunity in this business. But that aside.
Or another entrepreneur, not the big companies,
It's
right?
probably another entrepreneur. It's
He's
probably
out there
not-
listening to this podcast.
It's probably not Apple. It's probably not Amazon. You know how many times they have tried to get into this space and have not been able to do it? Yeah. So anyhow, but going back to tech, so I'll tell you a real quick story. There was a time when insurance companies would call me up and say, hey, we have our upcoming enrollment season coming up, and we want to provide you with enrollment kits, paper enrollment kits. And I would say, okay. And so they would literally bring dollies with boxes. And if you would walk into my office, along the one side was all windows. The boxes would be stacked up to the ceiling. And they were only good for one enrollment season. You never could use them all. And so one day I got mad. I'm so tired of this. This seems so ridiculous. And so here's what I did. Called up the building management. I said, I need the biggest recycling bin that you have. And they're like, okay. And so one day on a Friday, I got in my messy clothes, had the guy bring the biggest recycling bin they could have. And I videotaped
Oh, gosh.
me throwing every single kit and every single
You put
box.
it on YouTube, I
into
presume.
and yes, I put it on YouTube. And I don't remember exactly how many years ago, but so many of my agents will remind me of that video.
I love it.
And yes, I was trying to send the message. Folks, the days of paper have to be over.
Nice.
And I'm going to start myself, and I'm going to dump everything in here, and we're going to make our company completely paperless.
Oh, wow.
Now, for a small business, going paperless isn't necessarily hard. Just have to make a commitment to it.
Sure.
But to make insurance companies who are used to that model and say, we won't do business with you if you make us use paper.
I remember you telling me that story. There were a couple of the big companies that pushed back, and you said,
We're done with you. Yep, sorry.
I love
They're
it.
like, well, we're paperless except.
Right.
You still have to do this with paper, and you still have to do that with paper. And the insurance industry, like you said, have been around a long time, and there's some guys and gals not really willing to change, and they thought, well, this is the safest way to do it. It's not.
Right.
Security-wise, they
Right.
thought paper was safer.
Well,
but
that, and then
it's
you
not.
have HIPAA requirements that kind of make it challenging.
There's no question that there are not only HIPAA, but there's a whole slew of regulatory requirements. And I still say paper is the least secure, but there were people for many, many years that thought that paper was the safest, that they thought, by the way, before you start assuming everybody thinks this way, this still happens in this industry. They think the safest way is a piece of paper with a wet signature and then faxed.
Exactly.
Now, sounds ludicrous. Sounds
They
ludicrous to
do.
young people because they don't even know how to work a fax.
Right.
But in healthcare, you will walk into a doctor's office or in a hospital and you will see fax machines.
Wow.
I don't even know how to work a fax
Right.
machine.
Right.
I don't even know if I have one or not. If it is, it's
I've
collecting
been
dust
refusing
somewhere.
to use a fax machine. If someone asks me to fax them something, I will not. Now, I know you can electronically do it, so I can send it through my copier, but I will not.
No.
I'm right there with you.
But doctors' offices, the medical community is still heavily reliant on the fax.
That's interesting.
And they think that paper and a fax is the most secure way to do it, and that's why they haven't given it up. Yeah,
That's
those
amazing.
dinosaurs
So
have to.
before we talk about your community involvement, you mentioned on our last interview that the top expense for the U.S. government is healthcare. Tell us a little more. It's a big national expense, and you're right in the middle of it. But between Affordable Care Act and some of the requirements, what you're doing is really special. But it is a huge expense, not just for the government, but as we mentioned in the last program, for companies. But walk us through kind of your analysis, and from that, what's next for you? Like, how do you continue to help America with this insurance challenge that we have?
So I really try to look at the entire health insurance space and every American And like we talked about, there's no one size fit all.
Right.
Government may try to pitch that, but America doesn't work that way. America doesn't think that way. So if I am going to be a leader in my industry, then I've got to learn and understand each different type of consumer and make sure that my agents are providing solutions that fit each individual consumer, or if it's an employer, each individual employer. And there's not a one size fit all, which means you want to work with a professional advisor, somebody who's taken the time to really learn things, not somebody who's just in the business to try to make a quick sale, because they're not really looking at all the different options out there. They're looking for an easy fix. So in looking at the government, so certainly healthcare is heavily regulated, and the government plays a major role in this industry with Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
Those three programs combined
Massive.
are the largest government program expense, and nothing is even close, including defense.
That's amazing.
Maybe the interest on the debt might be the only other thing that comes up. But we'll, again, save that for a different speaker probably. So first and foremost, you've got that massive government number that is flowing through the system, which also brings tremendous government scrutiny.
Right.
So as an example, Feds just announced that now they are negotiating drug prices, and they made their announcement of the first 10 drugs that they negotiated a deal with. We'll see what impact that has, but that's the level of involvement the government has to actually negotiating prices.
Right.
So that's one bucket.
And then for the private sector, not to lose your train of thought, for the private sector, it's benchmarked against those government programs.
There's no question.
And that's what influences the private sector.
That's exactly right. So you have this big government influence in the market. And yes, almost everything else has to look and feel in some way similar to what the government is designing, whether that is their reimbursement to providers.
Right, exactly.
Every reimbursement to a provider is benchmarked based upon what the government says is the reimbursement rate. And that includes the second bucket, which is the employer market. And then, of course, the third bucket is the individual market, where people are actually paying their own premiums out of their own pockets. So you got those really three major influences, right? You've got a government, which is an 800-pound gorilla. You've got all these businesses, small, medium, large, that have a huge impact on our society and economy. And then you have the individual who's also, self-employed or just in the individual market because their employer doesn't provide health insurance. So you have to think of, if you're going to be in this industry, you got to really think of that holistically.
You do.
There is no one size fit all, because that individual, that business, and the government are all different constituencies, and you got to think about them separately. You can't just put a blanket statement and say, well, they're all the same.
Right.
And then you add to the fact that in addition to the constituency being different, the way they're regulated is different, the way you can talk to them is different.
Right.
There's so many differences in plan designs, how you could access care. I could go on and on all day, how different they can be.
So, and I one of the things that had an impact on me from a brokerage perspective is I was living and working in California. I had about 450 or so employees across the country, and I was renewing our benefits program. I was changing from one of the largest carriers in the U.S. to a different, very large carrier. And what I found in one of our pockets of employees, it was in the Iowa, Wisconsin market. And that large provider didn't have a huge presence there because it was controlled by a local, regional provider, a medical provider, and they just controlled that entire market. And it was interesting what we had to do to get around the lack of coverage there, but I needed all of our employees covered. We had to have an addendum to our program that incorporated them into this whole plan in order to make that work. And this national provider had to go out and do it. So that broker just plays a hugely important role in making sure that you can cover your entire area. Because you mentioned not only is it regulated by federal, and then you've got state, and then you have the local. Right. So you're right. Your role in that process and helping to figure out those details is so critical.
Well, Ronnie, I appreciate the story you were just describing. I mean, obviously, I've known you a long time, and you are so conscientious about how you are thinking in terms of helping your employer, thinking about helping your employees. And I wish every employer had somebody who was that sort of champion. And if every employer did, I promise they would get a strong return on their investment of whatever they were paying you. It was probably a lot of money. But it's that important.
It is.
Somebody really thinking this through is so key. And every organization needs a Ronnie in there.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll tell you one of my last quick stories that I find fascinating that I think companies should really take an opportunity to understand, particularly as they grow. What I found, I had one company based in California. Quick story. A few hundred employees. The vast majority of my employees were young men, single young men without a family. Those are great for insurance companies because they're invincible.
Right.
They don't go to the doctor. So we charge them their rates, and in theory, they cover the other people with families and the like just because of the premiums. It was easy for me to get coverage for that population when I look at my total population.
Right.
On the other side, I had another company based in Virginia that was probably about 60 to 70% female in the ages between 22 and 30, so childbearing age.
Yep.
And my premiums were significantly different because the
Yep.
insurance carriers looked at it different. They're looking at the cost for a person becoming pregnant, having a baby, and those are just part of the reality. It's not me choosing men versus women. It's
Right,
just
no.
from an insurance perspective.
The risk
And
is
I don't
different,
think a lot of executives at companies understand those dynamics in the business as they start to analyze healthcare.
No, you're exactly right. I think they just look at a group and say, well, they're all a bunch of chain smokers. So
Right.
that one's a
Right.
high risk one. And they don't think 27-year-old females are in the same bucket as
Right.
coal miners.
Right.
From an insurance perspective, again, I'm not
Correct.
trying to
Correct.
judge either one. It's just the reality of the risk profile. And again, that's why it's so crucial that a really quality insurance advisor would understand those dynamics and could make different recommendations depending upon
Absolutely.
the makeup of the group. And in the small employer market, it can come down to a single person in that group.
Sure.
If you have 8 employees, well, one person in the group with certain circumstances could have an impact on everybody. So a good advisor will understand, okay, well, we got this one person. Maybe it's the owner, by the way. It's one person that has whatever the circumstances. There's a 10,000 and we'd be here all day. But a good advisor would say, okay, I got to make sure I'm really thinking through this one person, make sure we're getting everybody covered, keeping everybody at an affordable rate.
Right.
But I don't want to leave that one person behind.
Right.
And there's solutions out there to do
There
that,
are.
just
There are.
for those that take a little bit of extra time to think about
Yeah,
it.
and I agree with you. And I was able to find a lot of those solutions because I had a year like that. Everyone has a year where it's just a hugely expensive year.
Sure.
And that impacts your renewal. And then they increase your rates.
Yep.
So, Andy, you're an entrepreneur. You have 4,000 advisors, brokers across the country. You're getting up at 4 a.m. because you need to prepare to post on YouTube and Facebook. But what does Andy like to do? It seems like you take your personal time and you volunteer it. Walk us through some of what you do and what keeps you motivated, inspired to keep going. You have a kid in college, which for me is an inspiration, just seeing them mature into adulthood. What are you doing? What do you like to do? What keeps you motivated to continue being a successful business leader?
I like changing people's lives for the better. I like doing it in my business. That's what keeps me going. I like helping people, but to be clear, in my business, I'm in it to make money.
Right.
But in my volunteer work, obviously, I'm not in it to make money,
Right.
but I am interested in trying to help people in both of those parts of my life. I spend a lot of my time volunteering. In my community, I'm on the board of directors of one of the largest nonprofits in my community.
Wow.
And it's really important to me. I feel like I wish I could touch everybody myself, and I wish I could help everybody myself, and I can't.
Right.
So instead, I find that if I could be associated with an organization that can help all those people, well, maybe I'll just help that organization, help them grow, help them accomplish their objective.
Right.
And that's the best way for me to affect a lot of people's lives. I can't, go into neighborhoods and
Sure.
help families that are struggling. Personally, I can't do that. But I can help organizations that are doing that, and they are positively affecting families.
I won't give you a complete pass on this because that one of the organizations that I know you volunteer with and you led them through COVID one of the largest food bank providers in the region, and their numbers spiked during COVID. And in addition to people needing more help, both with rent and food, which the organization helped with, you were also in the middle of a capital campaign to build a new building, I think $15-20 million building, to continue serving the community. So what you've done is impressive.
It is one of my proudest things that I will remember in my life. I wanted to change my community for the better, and I don't need my name on the building. Right. That's just not what makes me tick. I don't care if anybody knows. I know that I worked my tail off to raise the funds to build that building, and it opened last July. It's now a little over a year now. Wow. Up and running. It is the largest provider of food to the needy in the community.
It's amazing.
And you're right. When we first started traveling down the path of building that building, we had certain traffic expectations. Then COVID hit right in the middle of building this thing. And we're like, okay, the number spiked. And then we thought, okay, well, after COVID, maybe things will, no, they didn't go backwards because then you had inflation.
Right.
And without getting into a whole thing, I mean, to Ronnie, a loaf of bread going up by $1, that probably doesn't change your life. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't have a lot of disposable income, $1 increase in a loaf of bread is huge. And so what has happened is it went right from COVID and people not being able to feed their families and losing their jobs to now they just can't afford food. Right. They can't afford going to the grocery store. Anybody who's been to the grocery store can tell you it's gone up a lot.
It has.
And so, I'm really proud of the fact that in my community, nobody goes hungry.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I went to the grocery store yesterday. It happened to be Walmart, and they had the rollback price on bread at $1. And I was excited. That's $1. It was a huge loaf of bread, baked there. And I'm thinking that's a good deal. So I completely understand. There are a lot of families that need the help. And what's unique about the organization you serve, as I mentioned, they not only provide food, they provide counseling services, they provide workforce development options. So they're having job fairs. It is a full service center that helps people through their challenges. It helps them with their lease and utility bills if they need it. It's an amazing operation.
That's why I was connected with this organization. It's because it wasn't just out there handing out money. It was really trying to help people get back up so that they could be self-sufficient. And you're right. You got to look at things holistically. So often when people think about trying to help people, they're like, oh, just throw money at them, and that'll solve everything.
Right.
Or just throw food at them, and that'll solve everything. But it doesn't. You have to, well, why is it they can't afford this? Maybe they need a better job. Maybe they need some higher level of education. Maybe they need help with their rent because they're not able to make their rent payments, so they're concerned that their kids are going to be out on the street. So you have to look at somebody and their circumstances and assess them on an individual basis. Again, I don't have time for all that, but I'm so glad that there are organizations like mine and like many others out there that will take the time and try to help.
So we'll end on this note as we prepare to wrap up, but I'd love for you to walk us through why it's important for businesses, entrepreneurs to give back the way that you've done in your community, why that's important. And I'll tell you a story as you think through that. When COVID began, I decided to volunteer this organization as well. I took my daughters. There were some challenges with getting volunteers because people were so concerned about the COVID from their personal individual health perspective. And it was an incredible experience for me and my family, right? Just to be there and to know that we were helping when people either couldn't or they were so concerned about their own personal health. And I was explaining, because I think a couple of people brought up when we were serving food to these families, people were coming through with nice cars. So the vision that people had on who was coming through was completely different from reality. But these were people that were struggling. They had now no income, wonderful people, great families. They worked really hard their lives. They're coming through with their cars that were good cars. You think, they have like a broken down car. But these were people that were in huge need. And what the service that was provided was just incredible. What's the value in entrepreneurs like you just not focusing on making money, but giving some of that away and then helping other people that are in need? And these people, as I mentioned, in need span across all spectrums, from those that don't have a lot to those that might have something, but they're in a crisis right now.
Well, first, I want to commend you, Ronnie, for taking your daughters and not just saying do something, but actually doing it. I think that's so key. It's so easy to say, yeah, you should do that.
Right.
But then you don't actually show them how to do it.
Right.
Just real quickly, I'll tell you a story. When I first took my daughter out, we were delivering home meals, and we knock on the door to deliver this big bag of groceries. They were so appreciative. And as we walk away, my daughter taps me on the shoulder. She goes, "That kid's in my math class."
Oh, wow.
And I think that's when it hit her, like, these are just kids.
They're just normal people.
They're just normal
Yeah.
people that needed some help. So you'd be pleasantly surprised about the impact that you had on your daughters just by having them come out with you and you showing them giving back is fulfilling,
Right.
and you will enjoy the experience. And for parents that complain that all kids do is play on their
Right.
devices and are on
Right.
social media all day, do what Ronnie Spellman does. Go show your kids that you're willing to do something to give back.
And it goes back to what you mentioned, I think, in the last program. There's an opportunity to mentor our colleagues, but there's also an opportunity to mentor other people around us just by showing them the way. You know, mentoring, you pick up mentoring in various different ways. You can just show them through your actions in some ways. Right?
Absolutely. So going back to your question about why I do it and why I would encourage others to do it, that's first and foremost the number one biggest benefit is you're demonstrating to your family that you're a leader.
Right.
But you're also demonstrating to your community, and you're also demonstrating to your business that this is what you're about. And there is a impact. There's a ripple effect when they go, oh, gosh, Andy's a busy guy. Ronnie's a busy guy.
Right.
Still takes the time to provide leadership to his community for no money. You don't get no financial gain whatsoever. And I think as much as I have reiterated that I'm in business to make money, at the same time, just making money to me is too narrow of a life. I would rather look back at it as my legacy and say, yeah, I built a great business. Yeah, I helped change people's lives for the better. But I am just as fulfilled and I feel just as good about my legacy and helping my community out. And now not everybody's like that. But that's how I am, and that's how I hope my children look at me and say, yep, I saw that in action. I saw that he could balance both of those things. So, anybody can.
That's incredible. Andy, you're an absolute gift to the industry in benefits and a gift to our community. I appreciate you joining us on Business Decoded.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.